Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This week is a little bit different. I actually sat down with Pat from Podcastagram this week to be interviewed myself. I talked a little bit about how I got started with content creation and where I see my channel going in the future. I would highly recommend that all you go over and give Pat a follow on Instagram at podcastagram_. It's a fantastic page that he started up in the last few months and they've just recently gone past 1,000 followers. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this interview, and if you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments below about anything related to the channel or anything otherwise.
Hello, Odhrán. How are you?
How are you getting on?
How's things? A fellow Irishman. It's good to have you on.
Oh yeah, no better.
Yeah. So just to start off, I'm all my life in Ireland. I've never heard the name Odhrán. Have you ever met another Odhrán?
Unfortunately, no, not at this stage. But as my dad keeps reminding me, the name came from someone he knew anyway. So there's another person out there with as messed up as a name as me. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, he's a very unusual name. I've just never heard it before. But it's good to be individual, isn't it? I suppose, you know.
Yeah. People remember it all right.
Yeah. So we have a few questions here for you today, and I suppose we'll get straight into them. So, how did you get into podcasting? It's a question we ask everybody. So, how did you get into podcasting?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and congratulations on getting over 1,000 followers. I was delighted to see that. Great work so far. To break down how I got into podcasts, it's kind of two sort of ways you can look at it. First of all, I suppose kind of goes to why I enjoy doing interviews so much and why I enjoy talking to people. And the main reason for that would be that, I just, as someone who's always aspired to, do something in media with my life, I've always looked to interviews as a great way of, getting to know people, or even people that you see in the public eye, and you might think, what are they like behind closed doors, especially some of the people when I was growing up who'd be, big factors in my life, people like Gabe Byrne, Tommy Tiernan have been, huge facets in what have gotten me into, not only podcasting, but interviewing because of the way they talk to people and the sort of the raw emotion you can get out of an individual that you maybe wouldn't see on many other sort of formats for either TV or podcasts. I suppose sort of the business answer to it really is I make very much video-based content. But as anyone who's seen my channel will know that the audio is kind of the primary factor of those videos and the presentation is almost secondary to that. So it made sense to sort of publish these things on, more audio-driven platforms alongside it to not only drive traction to the YouTube channel, but to give people an option to, listen to them while they're on the go without having to have their phone open and, wasting battery and whatnot.
Yeah. That's an absolute brilliant answer. You've given a lot of information there. And yeah, really enjoyed that, to be honest. So it seems you have two interests, really. You have politics and you have gaming. But I'm guessing there has to be a favourite.
Surprisingly, it depends on the day, to be perfectly honest. Stuff like politics I have a huge passion for. I've always kind of been really big into politics since I started secondary school, and I've always tried to, be politically engaged and also to, help, not help my friends. I suppose some of my friends are a lot more politically engaged than I am. But just to kind of, talk to people about politics, I think the more people are informed about it, the better, because it means that more people are making better decisions when, first of all, they go to the polling booth, whenever that is for election day. And second of all, when they want to, engage with other people in politics, having these sorts of discussions with people is healthy and it's a good form of discourse as well. The one thing about it, though, I would say from doing the content is if you linger on it for too long, it can really weigh you down. Politics is not something that, you get into for the faint of heart. And I'm by no means in it a lot. I'm not a public figure. I'm not a TD. I'm not a senator. I'm not a councillor. So I don't get the half of the stuff that they get. So by all stretches of the imagination, it can weigh down on you if you look at it too much. Now, gaming, on the other hand, kind of has, I suppose, a similar factor that if you're really into it, you can probably find some really toxic individuals in it. Thankfully, I haven't come across anyone yet in it, but it's a big passion of mine. I grew up with video games and they've always been a huge form of my life. I think they're probably one of the most innovative art forms that we've seen in the last 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
And, the way in which they can tell evocative storytelling and, presented in a way that's not only enjoyable for a viewer, but also interactive at the same time has been something I've had, a huge love for. So I think if I had to make the choice, and by no means do I plan on stopping either of them, just for the sake of it doesn't weigh me down, and I probably feel a bit more confident talking about it. I think gaming would probably just edge it a little bit. But again, I've no plans on stopping either of them.
Yeah, and I know, like, with this lockdown, this pandemic, gaming is a big outlet to people at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
When there's nothing to do in the house and just to get their mind off things, gaming is absolutely fantastic,
100%.
So I just have a question here from Anto CMA. What's your top 3 favorite games, Odhrán?
Oh, God.
It's a hard one now.
That's a very difficult question. The simple ones are always... What are my favorite games? I suppose they're favorites more from a subjective point of view, because they're stuff that I'll have the most attachment to memory-wise. I think if anyone has seen, I did a recent video on my YouTube channel talking about games that got me through this year, and as you mentioned, they've been a huge factor for people who have been in lockdown and wanted an escape. I remember when I was about 10, my parents bought me the Xbox 360, and Halo 3 came with it at the time. So Halo would definitely, the series as a whole would be up there as probably some of my favorite games. I've always been fixated with, the story and the universe that those have provided, and also the really fun gameplay. Anyone who knows me as well knows that I rave a lot about Doom, which, to, some of the older audiences as well, is kind of the granddaddy of all shooter games one can either think of, coming out originally in 1993. I've been a huge fan of that series for years now, and it's not very story driven, but it leans on the sort of gameplay stuff that I'd be, enticed towards. Third game though, I've no idea is to say the answer. Stuff comes and goes, and I find meaning out of different bits and pieces in the genre. It can change on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, well, I found myself in a predicament there about 2 months ago. Obviously, the lockdown was in. I was like, right, I need to start playing games again. I used to be a big FIFA fan, PS4. PS3, sorry. I saw my PS3. But then I was like, will I buy an Xbox or a PlayStation 4? And I could not decide. And then I didn't buy either of them because I was just I couldn't decide. So I was in a conundrum, and I couldn't sort it out because my friends were saying PS3, but I was an Xbox man years ago, so I didn't know what to buy, so I ended up buying nothing. So
in fairness, you probably dodged a bullet there. FIFA is probably one of the most rage-inducing games I've ever played in my life.
Yeah. So I suppose everyone watching this will find you come across as a very good speaker, and I just want to ask you: is this something you have taught yourself, or is it natural? Or
well, first of all, thanks very much. It's a very good question. It's certainly not natural. No, I'm very bad, especially when it comes to not being able to control the content I'm putting out. Like even stuff like this, I'm comfortable sitting down and talking to people, but if I was to be asked to talk on maybe a specific topic or something that I wasn't an expert in, I'd get very flustered about it, and I tend to stumble over my words quite a bit. I think, in fairness, I have media's always been something that I've been either passively or extremely engaged in from a young age. So I remember when I was again around 11, 12, like I made short little Lego animations in my room. Like so, media has grown up with me, and I suppose that has played to me in a sense that I've grown not only as a person but also as an individual who's able to speak properly. I'm able to articulate my thoughts in a way that maybe I wasn't able to beforehand. I remember, how am I trying to say this now? No, but I before even this channel started up, I had a football podcast with one of my good friends when we were in secondary school, and I think that was a big factor in getting me to just speak more freely and openly, because there was no script, there was nothing to do with it. You just come in and you'd look at the last week's games or whatever, and you kind of talk about them, and it was very much a laid back approach. And I think people enjoy that now, the scripted sort of stuff. People kind of, when you get into a lot of work, you want to listen to someone who's a bit more relaxed, sort of on your level, and not to say that I'm on any other level other than this one, but the people kind of don't like so much more of the scripted content anymore. It's more relaxed friends having a chat, sort of, almost like the sort of thing that's going on now. Like, it's much more appealing to people to just hear people speaking, normally, rather than, reading off a script.
Yeah, and like, why it's very important to be a great speaker like yourself. I know from my own point of view, I've suffered from a stammer with years. It was very, very bad when I was young. I kind of grew out of it, but it's a very common thing. But if anybody has a stammer or they're not good at speaking, it shouldn't stop you speaking. You should go for it, and don't be afraid to come in front of the camera. You'll probably see my stammer every now and again, but just don't let things stop you in life. Go for it. And have you any small tips for someone speaking? Just a few quick tips, or how people can improve, or?
I would say, like, first of all, I'll give an example. So if you look at some of my older interviews when I first started this channel, there's, if you can get past the poor audio quality, first of all, there's passable content there. I'm an all right interviewer. But if you compare it to something I've done more recently, I think my most recent interview is with one of the members of the Irish Second Level Students' Union. I come across a lot better in those. I'm by no means perfect now, but I've definitely learned a lot through that. So, and I'd say the main factors to that are being prepared for an interview is obviously the most important bit. You should be well researched on the individual you're going to talk to. I'm not sure how much well this will translate into just people who are doing regular podcasts, but I'm going to kind of go from my own perspective on it. But yeah, being well researched is the main thing first and foremost. Second of all is having your questions laid out in front of you. Do not, and I've made this mistake before, do not go into an interview blind. I always, whenever, especially now with on Zoom, I usually have one tab open with the video and the other tab open with the list of questions going through them, because it's so easy to forget what you're on about. You may love the person and you may want to ask questions here, there and everywhere, but you know, if you don't have them in front of them, you're more likely to forget them, and then you'll be kicking yourself later for it. So, first, main thing, obviously, well-researched, good questions. And then I'd say the final thing is to learn from your mistakes. I know from experience, I hate listening to myself on camera when I play it back. But you you need to listen back to your stuff. And if you think, oh, well, there's something I could do better here, you'd want to say, all right, well, okay. So an example again, sorry, and I'm kind of veering off on a tangent here now, but one of the main things I noticed from my original interviews was that every sentence I'd start with after they've spoken is, well, I suppose, and then we'll go on to a new topic. And that gets very repetitive, and people notice that. So the main thing to do was, for me after that, was to cut it out. And then I found out recently, my sister actually pointed this out, that I say undoubtedly quite a bit as well. So it's about expanding your vocabulary, making your, selling the same message per se, but in a different tone or with different words.
Yeah.
Just keep it fresh for people to listen to, but it's also entertaining at the same point, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got a comment here. Cheers for your input on that, because probably a lot of people struggling with speaking like that, you know. And there's lots of comments about my jumper here, which is kind of strange. I know Good Times and Bad Movies, you've been commenting on my jumper all day. I've told you, go on the Iron Island website. You should get one there, I hope. Very warm, very comfy. It's a great hangover jumper as well. So, and there's still people here commenting about the games. I've seen Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure you're a fan of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I've seen bits of it now. I wouldn't say it's a game I'm very well versed on. I know a lot of people who are big fans of Doom are also huge fans of Mortal Kombat. I think it probably comes with the length those games have been going on at this stage. But yeah, it's a solid game. But Street Fighter games and games like that in general have never really been down my alley, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, it was tower games the whole time, and I remember my sister kept saying to me, come on, play some platform games. I said, no, I hate them. I hate platform games. I don't know why. It's controversial. But then I played Tomb Raider and it all changed. I'm showing my age here. I'm 38, so Tomb Raider, yeah, really done it for me. And then, obviously, Grand Theft Auto, it was looking down on the thing, it was 2D or whatever it was. And I love Grand Theft Auto. But I had the Sega Mega Drive 1 and 2. I had the SNES, and I love games. I've just kind of grown up with them, but it's good to see that you're still into your games and still loving them, So, Odhrán, you're on multiple platforms. You're on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and just for everyone watching there and they'll watch the IGTV, what platform are you finding the most traction on?
If you were to look at it from solely a follower's standpoint, Instagram has the most. But as you'll know, and as other content creators will know, is that followers on the very offset are sort of seen as this sort of view of popularity, whereas I think the main sort of popularity comes from is the amount of viewers you have, the watch time you have and the viewer retention you have. So on that front, YouTube dominates in that platform, but that's very much that's been the focus of that's been meticulously laid out. Like, I don't put my full content on Instagram or Facebook as well, but the main thing with those auxiliary platforms was to sort of drive content towards YouTube. Even some of the stuff like when at the odd time I promote a post on Instagram or Facebook, the main core focus would be to shift people over to YouTube for that content. So
good.
But Instagram, Facebook are great ways of reaching out to people that maybe don't engage with YouTube as much as they do with those platforms, I suppose.
Yeah, I've often found a lot of people DM me, and the best way I can describe this is people say about I don't want too many followers. Fake followers, get away from that. It ruins your algorithm and it'll just destroy your page. But if you work hard and build up a good following, interactive posts every day, and if you have your Spotify link in your bio, I describe that the way I can describe someone is if you have a good following on Instagram, genuine people, good interactions, that's like a bus going up towards the hotel, which is your bio, and you're driving people up to that, and they're coming in the door and they're listening to your Spotify. And that's why Instagram is so important. Drive them people to your bio, get them into that link, and you get downloads, you get views. So I think it's very important to work on your Instagram daily, set out an hour or two daily, and as you said, YouTube is brilliant too, and push people onto your YouTube, And so, what is your main audience in regards to your podcast?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about how I do the gaming and the politics. So obviously, for most people there's not a huge amount of overlap there. So kind of just I might have to just veer off a little bit here just to talk a little bit more in depth about the content that I put out. So the way in which it kind of works is, as I mentioned, podcasting has always kind of just been this secondary platform in which I pushed my YouTube content on. So the way I focus in is not having a sole podcast, but having, series. So main thing for that has been, the main three series I have at the moment are Young People in Politics. And I'd say obviously, the main audience for that would be young people within politics, I think.
Yeah.
But that's very much a series driven around, educating young individuals on, political parties in North and South of Ireland. Just kind of trying to, I suppose, sorry to just veer off here a little second, but I just kind of...
No, it's good content.
Yeah, this sort of it, I think I need to explain a little bit more, is the whole way that came across, and most of my channel last year was dealing with that series, and it's going to continue on into this year as well. But the main reason behind creating that series was, first and foremost, people who are young and want to get involved in politics, especially with political parties, have very little way of finding out what those parties are like unless they have a very extensive knowledge of politics, or they're just going to take it, off their party page, which at times can be very skewed in favour of those parties. So I wanted to provide a platform in which I sat down with a young member from each of those young political parties. I've interviewed every major party, both North and South of Ireland. That's including people like Sinn Féin, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, the DUP, and countless others. But the main factor with that was, so if somebody looks up on YouTube and they're like, oh, well, what's young Fine Gael like, or what's Ogre Sinn Féin like, they're going to get an idea of what that party's like, and then they can make, or at least they can start on their journey to making a more educated decision to joining that party, or even just to, find out what other parties are like that they're not in. Now, sorry, I kind of went off there a little bit, but...
No, you're fine. No.
Main audience for that, though, is obviously young people looking to get involved in politics or just looking to learn more.
Yeah.
Second one then is Cloud Content, which is a more recent series I've started up, which was pretty much... I have a love for sort of watching other people's content online as well, and I suppose it was kind of a way in a sense that I could kind of fanboy over channels that I love and kind of say like, oh, I'm doing it for interviews. So I've only interviewed 2 people on that so far, but the main drive behind that is to sort of interview people who are creating content, asking them about how they got started, where they want their content to go in the future, kind of similar to what you're doing now, like, interviewing, you have kind of different people's podcasts, but I'm kind of looking at it more from sort of YouTube creators. So, but just different platform. So the main audience for that is obviously just people who'd either be interested in those individuals or people who are looking to just find new content to look at. Then is, and this is my main podcast that I do, the 404 podcast. It's kind of just interviews, and that can range from TDs or senators all the way to games composers. So it varies a bit, but it's the main focus of that one is very much to get to the core of the individual. What makes them tick almost. Why did they choose the career they went into or the party they joined? How did they come to make the decisions they did today, and how did that lead them there? So it's almost sort of a video biography of some sort, fitted into about a half an hour or 40 minutes, and sometimes on one case an hour and a half, which I think trained the next day. But the main audience for that is just people who are interested in other people, interested in learning about different professions, interested in learning about different politicians, or just interested in people, as I said. So those are the three ones. Those are sort of the three main categories I kind of go for as well. But by no means are limited to those people.
Yeah, because that's great content there, and the reason we're doing the interviews here is just to get podcasters to get them some tips, some information how to go forward, and you've been some great information from you there. And we actually have a comment here from Chaotic Neutral Pod. You don't choose the game in life chooses you. So
that's all right, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of gamers here on here tonight anyway. So what's the future hold for yourself and your platforms? Are we looking at the next president of Ireland?
No, by no means. I've got this question a few times from people who've seen my content. They're like, would you ever consider running for office? And I have no intention of that. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not a public figure, and I would not want to put up with the stuff that they do. Politics is not down the road for me, at least in any sort of, councilship or senator position. I would like to, in the future, I suppose, I would like to delve more into media. I don't know if I'd want to delve into sort of traditional media. I suppose a goal of mine is always to do something with, RTE or something. I suppose, isn't that every, sort of Irish media student's dream?
Yeah.
But I love the stuff I'm doing at the moment. The short-term goal, at least, I suppose, which is a bit more realistic, is to hopefully get 100 subscribers by the end of February. Obviously, we talked about, subscribers aren't the be-all and end-all, but it would be a huge thing to me specifically, because it'd be able to prove to myself, previous in life, I've been very bad at, sticking at something and making something out of it. I tend to give up.
I think everybody has. I think though everyone can relate to that,
Mm-hmm. But it would be great, because I've done different YouTube channels before. None of them have ever reached 100 subscribers, and I think a lot of that is down to me giving up on it. So this is something I really thoroughly enjoy. I've never felt so impassioned about a project that I'm doing right now than with this channel. So to get that to 100 will almost be a validation of the hard work I put in. But again, it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, what I always find is, if you have a passion for something, you're going to make it work regardless, because I tried a few things too. I hadn't the passion for them what I have now, this thing. And if you have the passion, have the enthusiasm, it's going to work, because it's something you enjoy. If you go into a job that you don't enjoy, you're not going to work that hard. If you go into a job that you love, you're going to work hard and climb the ladder. That's the way it is, So Odhrán, I think it's time you plugged all your platforms. Can you tell our followers where they can find you, all your handles, all your platforms, and tell them everything?
How long have you got? I suppose, first of all, on YouTube, if you look up Media.wmv with Odhrán Johnson, that's the main channel anyways, and you can find all this stuff as well in my bio. I have a link tree all laid out. You can find the podcasts I've mentioned, Young People in Politics, Cloud Content, 404, all on Spotify or any other platform you listen to your podcasts on. On Twitter, it's @_Johnson_YT_, and then again on Instagram and on Facebook, it's Media.wmv.
Brilliant. Well, guys, if you want to come on for an interview on Podcastagram, basically DM me. We'll get you in the diary. We'll sort you out. And Odhrán, thanks so much for coming on today. You were an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure a lot of people took so much information from this, especially with the speaking aspect of it. And good to have a fellow Irishman on the channel. And I wish you all the best for the future. Guys, follow him. Check him out on YouTube. Get him to 100 subscribers. And you've done absolutely fantastic today. And thanks so much for coming on. And as I said, all the best for the future. And hopefully we're looking at the president someday. I know you don't want to be it, but I might ask you again in 10 years and see what you say.
Oh, yeah.
So, Odhrán, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks a million.